Quality, experience, flexibility, customer support, on-site training, progress. Welcome to Real Green Systems and the Lawn and Pest Assistant, the #1 software package for the service industry. In this video, we will show you how our program will not only help you run your business, but will help your business run better.
Hello, I'm Joe Kucik, the President and founder of Real Green Systems, the developers of the Lawn and Pest Assistant. I also own Real Green Professional Services, a lawn fertilizing company here in the Detroit area. It was the beginning of my lawn fertilizing company that started me out on the development of Lawn and Pest Assistant. It was very evident to myself that after a few short months in business that if I hadn't automated my business, I would stifle my growth and not attain the goals that I wanted to achieve for our company. It was then that I got with my brother Paul and we started writing the Lawn and Pest Assistant. In the summer of 1985, we began marketing the software to lawn pest control, lawn mowing companies, landscape companies across the United States, and had some very, very positive instant success with the software. I think part of the reason that we've been so successful is not only because our software does so many things and is so powerful, but also the way we take very great care of detail. For instance, when we go to install your software, we don't just show up at your office or send you the software for you to do it yourself. We first send you out a 50-page questionnaire that you fill out, explaining to us how you run your business, what kind of terms you offer, what your interest rates are, what kind of businesses you offer, the prices you charge for your services. We take all that information you give us and fill that information into the Lawn and Pest Assistant before we ever show up. Once we show up, we spend 2 days training you on how to use the software, but not how to set it up, but how to use the software for your operation. After we leave, you get 6 months of unlimited 1-800 toll-free support that you can call our office as many times as you wish between 8 in the morning and 6 at night to get any questions answered that arise. There's going to be many reasons during the next 2 hours that you're going to see that we are the software that you wish to use and we are the company that you wish to use. Because even with the best software, without the best support and backup behind you, the software is worthless.
Our lawn care company has grown to over 8,000 full program customers, largely due to the marketing, accounts receivable, and customer support features that the Lawn Assistant has provided them. Both companies have grown so much, in fact, that we will soon be moving to a new building, our 4th facility in the last 10 years. For over 15 years, we have been marketing the Lawn Assistant to the green industry, so that now we have over 600 companies using our program throughout North America. We are not even strictly for lawn care companies anymore. Our program can handle tree care, snow removal, pest control, really any service company. So now we are not the Lawn Assistant anymore. We are the Lawn and Pest Assistant, software for the service industry. Of course, we have changed the program considerably over the years. Networks, Windows, the Internet, modems, laser printers, color monitors, CD-ROMs, mice, global positioning, and many other innovations that did not exist back then have been integrated into the Lawn and Pest Assistant over the years.
There are really 2 big reasons why the Lawn and Pest Assistant continues to get better and better day in and day out. The first reason is that we're always soliciting ideas of our customers to help us enhance the features and add new features to the software. The second reason it continues to get better is because we use the software every day ourselves, and we are probably the most demanding people of the software there is out there. We expect it to grow our business, and it does.
Let me introduce you to our staff, many of whom you will get to know later in this presentation. Here, please meet Joe McPhail, my Vice President. Joe has been with Real Green for over 12 years and is a major reason the Lawn Assistant has been so successful. Here is Pete Brown. He has been here for over 10 years, bringing many years of lawn care experience to our firm, with skills acquired while with other companies, especially dealing with office personnel. Pete really knows how a lawn care business works. John Wright is another member of our technical support staff. John helped develop and implement our Mapping Assisted program, which is an add-on module to our Lawn and Pest Assistant, helping to efficiently route your drivers. John will present this feature to you later. Others on our growing support staff include Bill Dunn, Jared Roberts, Steve Zataslo, and David Sheldon, any of whom are more than qualified to train you on the Lawn Assistant and answer any questions you might have after implementation. We also have several on-site programmers, led by head programmer Steve Katz, along with Derek Wanzel and Gary Cheng. These professionals are constantly working to improve the Lawn and Pest Assistant and related applications. With our large programming and support staff, along with our seasoned front office personnel, we believe that we have the finest, most knowledgeable organization in the industry, bar none. In this video, we will show you how you can set up the Lawn and Pest Assistant to best benefit your company, customer entry and scheduling, how to print and customize customer invoices, data entry employing new high-tech peripherals, many of the important reports generated, how to generate letters, postcards, and calling lists, our contact manager, and a quick look at the Mapping Assistant, which is the most exciting bit of software in the service industry.
I realize this is a long video and that your time is very valuable, but this is a huge decision that you're about to make on software that you're going to use for the next 10, 15, or 20 years. You want to make sure that you choose the right software, the right company, and you don't want to negatively impact the growth of your business because you chose the wrong software. So please enjoy the video, watch the video, learn from it, and give us a call if you have any questions. I'll let Pete take it from here.
As we double-click on the icon to activate the program, we're first brought to the sign-on screen. Here, you will need to enter your password to use the Lawn and Pest Assistant. These are passwords that you create so that you decide who has access to your data. Later, we will see how you can also decide how much access each employee has. Once a valid password is entered, you will be brought to our desktop screen. You will notice our logo in the upper left and your logo in the lower right. If you do not already have your logo in a digital form, we can scan it for you. The background wallpaper can easily be changed, just like your Windows wallpaper. In a network environment, each station can have a different background. In most ways, our screens behave just like other Windows programs you might be used to. You can use the buttons in the upper right to minimize the program, restore to a smaller screen, maximize the screen, or exit the program. You can navigate through the Lawn and Pest Assistant along the top menu bar with either your mouse or your keyboard by hitting the underlined letter, such as C in Customer. The most common tasks, however, can be accessed through our direct buttons along the toolbar. Also on the toolbar are universal command buttons, such as adding a record or printing, which we will use later. The most crucial part of a sophisticated system is customizing the program to the way you do business. We call those the parameters. Let's show you how easy and important this one-time setup is. The first thing we would need is the name and address of your company. This is what we'll print for customers to see on their invoices and statements. We have options for several different company names and addresses, or branches. This will allow you the possibility of showing a separate company name to different customers. As an example, your lawn care customers might be serviced by a different company than your maintenance customers, and the company name on the invoices would reflect that. You could also designate that only your outlying customers get your toll-free phone number, while your local customers get only your local number. You could also run several franchises on the same system, yet keep separate bookkeeping functions. This is a feature we added when one of our users acquired a competitor, but wanted to continue servicing their customers under the old company name for the remainder of the year. Another company did business in 3 different states and wanted to show local mailing addresses and phone numbers to customers in each state. The Lawn and Pest Assistant can also print your logo on your invoices. We can just click in the area and paste what we want. Under the general setup, you'll tell the program if you want the computer to add your company name, address, and logo on your invoices and statements, or if you're going to use your own pre-printed forms. Of course, you can start using our colorful generic forms and move to your own forms later. Our invoice, which is the bill that's left at the time of service, is a single sheet, perforated, legal-size form. The top third is for your technician, giving him information about the service that is to be produced today. The bottom 2/3 are left with the customer, with the bottom third to be sent back with remittance. We will take a closer look at the invoice later when we generate one, but there are many user-defined optional items that you could print on invoices. On the remittance portion of the invoice, you can print a checkbox for the customer to request a call from your technician. As you know, communication is a key for successful customer relations. On the technician's portion of the invoice, following any instructions for a customer, you can supply an area for your technician to confirm that he has read and followed the directions. If you've ever had problems with your drivers not closing gates or performing any pre-notifications, you certainly realize the benefits of this feature. One of the greatest features of the Lawn and Pest Assistant is the opportunity to compose your own messages to customers. These messages can take many forms. Here, we would write a message that would appear on every invoice and statement if desired. In this case, we want to detail a remittance due and finance charge policy. Further down, we will want to give a reminder notice if payment is slightly past due, or a more strongly worded message if considerably older. This is one of many ways our program will help you collect accounts receivable without expending any more effort. If it is your policy, you might also wish to indicate that your service is continuous from year to year. This has proved to prevent many of the spring phone calls from customers who claim that they were unaware of your policy when sold. Many of these options for the invoices are also available to be printed on the statements you would mail.
The Lawn and Pest Assistant is also adaptable to your policy regarding extending credit. If your company performs a service on a customer but they don't pay, do you want to continue servicing that customer? And if so, for how long? The age or amount of outstanding balance will determine their eligibility at the time of invoice printing.
You would make the policy and parameters, although you can always find out which customers are past due and override your policy on a case-by-case basis. If you decide to print invoices for customers who owe you money, you have the option of including that previous balance due on the next invoice, even if they just neglected to pay their sales tax on the previous service. You could decide to assess an interest charge to your past due customers. You determine the policy as to the percentage and amount to charge. You would always have the opportunity to review the charges before they are actually posted to the customer's accounts, and even to exempt certain customers from ever being charged.
People make mistakes, and the Lawn and Pest Assistant works to help prevent them and makes it easy to correct them. You can imagine the resulting problems if you accidentally post work done to a previous year or a previous month. Overdue charges will be immediately assessed, and demanding collection letters would be immediately printed. Therefore, we've included an option in parameters to help prevent these errors.
Another built-in precaution in parameters allows you to designate which fields cannot be left blank when entering a new customer. As an example, if you make your business plans according to the effectiveness of your marketing, you want to make sure that your data entry person does not skip the field indicating how that new customer heard about your company. You would probably also want to make sure that each new sale gets attributed to a salesperson and that the correct sales tax is getting charged. These are the kinds of features we have added over the years after making mistakes in our own lawn care data entry and working to prevent their reoccurrence. The Lawn and Pest Assistant classifies the customer entries according to 3 status levels, either estimate level, cancel level, or active level. Within those levels, there are several options for status codes, and we see the default descriptions here. The yellow statuses reflect the progress of an estimate. Every customer is status 0 until you change it. You can follow the progress of the estimate, updating it to higher levels until they become active, which is the green level, or reject your offer, which we have labeled as status 4. We have broken down cancellations into 3 distinct status codes. Most of your canceled customers are ones that you might want to contact again to reinstate service, which we have as status 6. Others, those that have moved, would require a different type of contact to the new residents, so there is a separate status for those. Additionally, there might be some customers that you would not want to resolicit. Maybe the customers that never paid you or caused other trouble, or maybe those who lived in an area you no longer service. We have set up status 5 for those. The descriptions of these status codes can be changed, but not the levels themselves. Of course, the best way to prevent errors being made is to prohibit some employees from accessing certain areas of the program. We have allowed you to set up several security levels based on the rights and responsibilities of the employees. As the owner of the company, you would certainly want to allow full access to yourself, but possibly restrict other employees from the parameters, allowing only you and possibly your office manager access. As a safety measure, you would certainly want to prevent most of your employees from printing customer lists or handling the deposits. As we look at employees, we can see how the navigation bar comes into play. You can use this area to go from record to record, add a new record, edit an existing record, save or undo the changes you made, delete a record, which should be used very judiciously, or print this screen. If you wish to print a list of all records of this type, there is a button on the window itself for that. Also notice the button with a question mark. That is the Help button. This brings up our on-screen help file, which basically is our user's manual. This is context sensitive, so that whatever screen you are in will have the pertinent help screen appear before you. This is a very helpful feature, and we update it each time we send out a program update, so this information is newer than any printed manual could be. If you wish, however, you can certainly print any or all information from this help file. Now, within the employee file, you need a record for each employee in your company, even if they are not allowed access to the computer. That access is determined by the security levels we set earlier. Each employee will need a name, an identifier, and a password. You can also keep biographical information here as reference. Another feature here and elsewhere in parameters is whether this is an active record or not. If this employee has left your company, you might want to leave his record for review, but you wouldn't want him showing up on your list of active employees. This would let you keep years' worth of old employees, often needed when looking at sales and service history, without clogging up your files. The Lawn and Pest Assistant produces a general ledger that can easily be entered into your own accounting system. First, you would need to create a chart of accounts or use the one shipped with our program. You can be as general or as detailed as you wish, so if you wish to consider all production revenue the same for accounting purposes, you can. You can also break it down into fertilizing revenue, maintenance revenue, pest control revenue, landscaping revenue, or even specific service. You can be as general or explicit in detailing revenue or liabilities as your accounting needs dictate.
Once in a while, you're going to need to make an adjustment to a customer's account after a service has been posted, and you'll want to know why. You can use the reasons shipped with the Lawn and Pest Assistant, or you can create your own.
As an example, we can create a credit reason for when one of your technicians breaks a sprinkler head during a core aeration. This new reason description we've created, when used, will show up on a customer statement rather than just seeing the word credit. This is another way the Lawn and Pest Assistant helps eliminate the confusion customers sometimes feel regarding their accounts. At any time, you can run a report totaling these types of credits and even send pre-written letters to affected customers. The most common type of discounts offered by repeat service companies is one given in return for prepayment of the year's services. Real Green has worked very, very hard to make this procedure as efficient and user-friendly as possible. Unfortunately, prepayments in real life are not always simple, so we have included these parameters. You will set up different prepay options, where a customer might prepay just for his lawn care work, but not his tree care. You might offer prepayment discounts just for lawn treatments, but not for any extra services at all. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will reserve the prepayment funds for just the desired services and discount them at the time of invoicing. Many companies offer discounts and incentives to customers, and the Lawn and Pest Assistant allows for many options in such cases. You may wish to offer your existing customers a $10 discount if they refer a new customer to you. We would set up such a parameter, showing that this is a discount, not a surcharge. This is $10, not 10%, and this will discount this service for this year only. We will assign this discount code to one of the customer services, and when the invoice for that service is printed, the customer will see the discount subtracted from that day's service charge. Other discounts might include a free service charge for new customers, where you would give 100% off one service for this year only. You can give an employee discount or half price on a service to keep a customer happy. You can also offer a senior citizen discount, but that is one that would be marked every year since we would assume that they would be a senior citizen again next year. You can even set up a surcharge on a service, such as an environmental disposal fee. You would find these discounts preferable to just changing a customer's price, especially in cases where the discount is not renewed for the following year. Of course, you can always run reports totaling the amounts of any type of discounts scheduled and given. One of the most annoying facets of doing business in many states is dealing with sales tax. We certainly became aware of that when both Ohio and Pennsylvania initiated sales tax on lawn care in the same year. The Lawn and Pest Assistant has designed its program to account for city, county, and state sales tax, along with the GST and PST charges incurred in Canada. Our program can even handle situations such as in Indiana, where lawn fertilizing is taxable, but lawn maintenance is not. You can set up different payment types as your accounting needs dictate. Maybe you will need to report credit card receipts separate from cash and checks. Maybe you even wish to separate Visa from MasterCard from Discover. In the Lawn and Pest Assistant, you will have that capability. One of the major strengths of the Lawn and Pest Assistant is tracking your marketing efforts. In your parameter setup, you would create source categories for all possible customer origins. Once again, you can deactivate old entries, such as 1999 Garden Show, so that they would not be used again, but will still show up on reports. Parameters also allow you to set up reasons why a prospect never initiated service with you, why your customers canceled, and why they might be putting off service. Reports classifying rejects and cancels by reason can tell you enormous amounts of information on the way that you conduct your sales force and service department. In the Lawn and Pest Assistant, we can set up all 5-digit zip codes or 3-character postal code prefixes in your service area. We would set up the city for that zip so that when entering your customers, you would only need to type in the zip code, not spell out the city. Also, you would set up the sales tax structure for that municipality, accommodating the types of piggybacked sales taxes we talked about earlier. You could also assign a service truck to that area to ease the new customer entry and scheduling. We could also associate one of your company names with each zip code. Can you see how everything is starting to come together? Efficient routing is an important key for generating productive and contented drivers. The first step in the Lawn and Pest Assistant is to label your vehicles and assign them to specific service areas. We will see the importance of this later when we route out a day's work. We have a field in the customer file called Collection Code, which will greatly help you in your accounts receivable management. You can mark a customer for such reasons as they always pay on the first of the month, or that they are traditionally a late payer. Customers such as these would certainly be handled differently when making your collection calls, so these reasons would appear on overdue reports. You can even run reports or send letters just for these customers, and only if they currently owe money if you wish.
There are many ways that the Lawn and Pest Assistant can classify customers for you. By city or zip, by scheduled services or targeted pests, by source, or many other reasons. But sometimes there are more subjective reasons to group customers together. Therefore, we have included the opportunity to flag customers for retrieval, either by a list or to send letters to.
As an example, you may have some customers that insist that you call them to renew service each year. You can flag them and print a calling list in the winter. You can flag all customers that have a dog, then print letters selling your flea and tick program. These flags basically can be whatever you want them to be and have unlimited potential for helping your company. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will help you classify a customer's property according to what they have. In parameters, we would set up the different property area categories, different property classifications, and the different property definitions. This will allow you to easily describe customers' property by grass type, type of trees, soil type, amount of shade, or as many other ways as you need. This feature would be particularly helpful to tree care companies and lawn care companies in the southern U.S., where many lawns have different grass types in front than they do in the backyards. This is information you need to know. Our program not only helps you identify customers who wish to be called before service, it also lets you classify the reasons and whether they are one-time or renewable requests. The Lawn and Pest Assistant can help you keep track of the products supplied during services. We recommend that you list each type of product and designate what unit of measure you will be applying, whether it be pounds, ounces, milliliters, grams, bags, gallons, or whatever. The rate at which you apply these will be set up when you set up the type of service. For instance, the same pesticide may be applied at a much different rate at different times of the year and depending on the target pest. You may also list the EPA number, which will appear on reports.
Finally, in parameters, we set up the kind of work you do. The Lawn and Pest Assistant deals with two types of services, those that are part of an annual program and those that are done individually and independently.
So first, we set up the types of programs or groups of services you will perform. If you are basically a lawn care company, you will have a simple set of services. But if you do other series of services, such as tree and shrub work or pest control, you would include those too. The Lawn and Pest Assistant also allows for variations within lawn care, such as organic treatments and differentiation between fertilization for warm season and cool season grasses. You can also set up differentiation between pest control programs, perimeter pest, regular baseboard, or periodic termite inspection. Here is where we would set up the kinds of services you offer, whether they are one-time jobs or meant to be part of an annual program. We will need to set up a code for this service, which might just be an abbreviation or might be a number if part of a series of services. Now, we will name the service. This is the title that customers will see on invoices and statements, so you should limit the abbreviations but be descriptive. We will also need to associate this service with a type of program that we set up earlier. This will be useful not only for services that are part of an actual program, but also to show that an aeration, for example, is a lawn care service, but pruning is associated with tree and shrub. You will be able to set up pricing for this type of service, whether it is calculated from man-hours or derived from a price chart based on square footage or any other unit of measurement. These prices will be a default suggestion when you enter a new customer and can be overridden at any time. We also have reports that can show you the customers whose prices differ substantially from what would be calculated here. Another use of these price charts would be to suggest a price to a current customer while trying to sell a service that they do not currently have. After all, you have their lawn size already. For repeating service companies, you will offer a set of services that may compromise an annual program. These programs can consist of just your regular weed and feed services or can be composed of a variety of interrelated services. Basic lawn care companies may only have one program or possibly two, full and partial, for instance. However, we have seen many companies sell different packages, whether they are called basic or complete, deluxe or economy, gold, silver, or platinum. These different options are set up here, and you choose what composes them. You need not make a program for every possible combination of annual services. You will have the opportunity to schedule someone for the full year, for example, but turn off the midsummer service, which is a common occurrence.
When your technician services a customer's property, you want him to take note of the condition of the property and any noticeable circumstances. If the customer is not watering enough or not mowing at the correct height, you want him to mention that to the customer and note it in the customer's file.
Therefore, we have made available to you condition codes, which can help you identify and note any situations encountered at the time of service. We would first classify these conditions so that they can be grouped on a list. Then you would set up a short mnemonic code and description. If your technician notices that the customer is scalping the lawn, he can note CS for cutting too short on the part of the invoice that he returns to the office. A pre-written letter can be sent whenever a customer is given one of these codes. Maybe your driver notices that their trees and shrubs are neglected. By entering that code during production, your tree care sales letter can be generated. You can even automatically schedule a service call or other service whenever a certain code gets used. You also have an area where you can give him messages to write to the customer on the invoice. This way, he will be communicating the way you want him to, not using his own words and his own spelling. These condition codes will be recorded into the computer and will be part of the customer's history, able to be viewed at the office, and also will appear on the driver's portion of the invoice the next time he services the property. If the customer is still mowing too short, you and your driver will know that it is an ongoing problem, and if they call up saying that their lawn is brown, you will have a pretty good idea why. You can also retrieve customers who received certain condition codes. For example, if you note all customers who are in particular need of aeration, you can print a calling list of them or even send them letters. Once again, we see that the more information you have about your customers and their properties, the better you can serve them.
Now that we have reviewed the basic parameters of our system, we can enter a new customer. Now you can enter a new customer the same way you do a prospect, but we'll just do an active customer for now.
As we hit the Customer button, we are presented with a customer search screen which we will use later. We will click on the new record icon and we see a blank customer template with the different sections uniquely colored. Entering a customer can be as simple as you want it to be, but let's take a look at each field here. The first field we see is the company name, which would be used if you are entering a commercial property. Let's keep this one simple and just enter a regular residential customer. The next field is the title, Mr., Dr., or whatever. As we enter the first and last names, you will notice that the first letter automatically gets capitalized to make this entry easier for you. Now here is a part that is very user-friendly. As you enter the street number, remembering that this is the service address, not the billing, then the street name, the Lawn and Pest Assistant will break down the street into the basic street name with directional information as prefix or suffix, along with the street type designation also as suffixes. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will be loaded with all of these suffixes entered and even can recognize and standardize your input. No matter if you spell out court or just enter CRT, it will fill in as CT. In this example, the customer's root street name is Maple, which is going to help look for duplicate customers, as we will soon see. Next, we would enter the zip code. The basic 5-digit zip, or 3-character Canadian postal code prefix, will refer back to our parameters and fill in the correct city, state, tax rate, servicing company name, and routing information. Of course, any of these can be overridden in cases where two towns share the same zip code. Once the zip code is entered, the Lawn and Pest Assistant will look for duplicate customers at that address. In this example, Mr. Nelson at 3784 East Maple Court shows a possible duplicate at 3784 West Maple Avenue. In this case, we know that it is not a duplicate and can continue. Possibly, though, we may find that the property we are entering is a prospect and is a duplicate. Maybe you ran an estimate for this prospect last year, or possibly for the previous owner. We might already have the price quote for this prospect. Maybe he's an old canceled customer who never paid you, or maybe he is already an active customer and he forgot. You definitely would need to know when you are entering a possible duplicate. Once the full address is entered, we have a very handy feature. By clicking on the binoculars here, we'll do a neighbor search, looking for other customers on that street within that zip code. You have the opportunity to fill in some fields on this new customer with information already entered for their neighbors. The blue fields show the nearest neighbor that has data in each field. So, we would want to fill in Mr. Nelson's route with the same as his neighbors, since we would certainly want to send out the same truck to service them both. His map location may be the same as his neighbor's also. You may also wish to copy lawn size and subdivision name from a neighbor. Also notice the directions to the property. If we don't want the closest neighbor's directions because they're not full enough, we may check a different customer's direction box and those would fill in. If we uncheck the box, it will not go to the new customer. In viewing this list of neighbors, you may notice the different colored lines. Green customers mean that they are active clients, red means canceled, and yellow means that they are old or pending estimates. We will see these colors again in several places. Once we have hit OK, those desired fields will fill in. We now come to the phone number area. As we enter the work phone, notice that there is extra room at the end for other text, such as extension numbers, whose phone it is, such as Mr. or Mrs., or hours available. We even have these scroll arrows to reveal other phone numbers, such as fax, pager, cell, and even email address. The Lawn and Pest Assistant even has the functionality to send out email to your customers. The default route field will designate which truck is responsible for doing this customer's services. If different services are to be done by different trucks, you may wish to list the truck that would do your most prominent service, such as lawn care. The subdivision name comes from your parameters. This information will help your driver find this property and also tells you something about the age and wealth of his neighborhood. You can even print letters just to certain subs. The directions to the property, which we already filled in from one of the neighbors, will print on the driver's portion of the invoice. You may wish to put in the nearest cross street, location on the block, description of the house, or whatever might help your drivers, especially new drivers, find this property. The next area is one of great importance. These invoice and worksheets notes will print, as the label indicates, on the driver's portion of all invoices and worksheets. Any special instructions or messages that are particular to this customer that you want your personnel to be aware of should definitely be on the invoice. If this customer has special concerns or requirements, or if you do only part of the property, or if there's anything else that the technician needs to know, you would want to enter it here. Also, by right-clicking, you can perform a spell check. Remember, we selected the options back in Parameters to ask for the driver's acknowledgement that he read these notes. The bane of many service companies is the kind of customer that requests a phone call in advance of a service. Real Green certainly realizes this and has incorporated several features to identify and manage these customers. Most notably, we would need to mark this type of customer here, along with a reason, if any, for the call-ahead. More extended reasons can also be listed in the invoice notes sections. The words call-ahead will print in very large letters on this customer's invoices so that your driver cannot ignore it. You may also print lists or send letters to your call-ahead customers, even differentiating between the reasons for the notification. The status field determines whether the customer is active or not. Remember our discussion of the 10 status codes and parameters? For our example here with Mr. Nelson, we would want to change to an active status. We will see later that this is just the customer status. It will be possible to cancel just some of the customer services, leaving the lawn care active, but the tree care canceled or an estimate, for example. If a new customer wishes you to delay service until a certain date, or an existing customer says that their lawn will be torn up by sewer work in August, for example, you can put this customer on hold by utilizing this blue section, therefore preventing invoices from printing until the end date. This will put all services on hold, but if just the lawn care, for example, needs to be postponed, that can be accomplished too. As we will see later, this is not the same as skipping an annual service this year. There are some companies who use this field to indicate a pending cancel. They just put the end date far into the future and avoid the risk of servicing that customer until the owner or manager can save them or confirm their cancellation. The red cancellation area would be used on the rare occasions when one of your existing customers cancels their account. As mentioned earlier, first the status of the account would be changed, then the cancellation date fills in automatically along with who took the cancel, defaulting to who is logged into this computer. An important part of the cancellation procedure is registering a reason for the discontinuation. Was it due to poor service? Are they doing it themselves? Financial problems? This will be important information in analyzing why people are dropping your service and if you can get them back. As we saw in Parameters, the Lawn and Pest Assistant has the option of treating commercial customers differently than residential ones, with our program defaulting to residential, as we want to do with Mr. Nelson. The map code designation is a very important factor in allowing the computer to help route your customers. As we talked about in Parameters, you would want to service all customers who are near each other together. As we will see later, the Lawn and Pest Assistant is designed to help you run your routes in the most efficient manner possible. Map location is the starting point. The size of the property, of course, is an important item. This will determine the suggested price of most lawn care services. Even if this is to be a tree care customer only, you may wish to record the lawn size in order to offer a price when soliciting future lawn care services. For pest control companies, you may wish to use such measurements as linear feet of baseboard. When we add a new customer record, whether it is an active customer or just a prospect, we will want to know what prompted this person to contact us. Did they see our ad in the Yellow Pages? Are they responding to a direct mail postcard? Are they a referral? When we know this kind of information, we can run several reports that can show us the effectiveness of our marketing efforts. If we generated only $2,000 worth of revenue on advertisements that cost us $3,000, we will know not to renew those efforts. I spoke earlier about flag codes, a way of marking a customer for retrieval for reasons not covered any other way. Let's say this customer has pets on their property and that they have requested a call during the winter instead of automatic renewal. We can run lists or send letters to any or all of the customers flagged these ways. The balance sections will fill in after entering work done and payments received, but we can edit the credit limit field on a new customer. Notice that it is filled in with $3,000, which is what we set in parameters. If this new customer deserves more or less credit, we can change that here. This may be the case with individual customers you know will pay, it just takes them several months to do it. You would want to continue the year services for him when you wouldn't for most others. The sales tax rate for this new customer fills in automatically according to a zip code or Canadian postal code. It is possible that you wish to separate the state sales tax from the city tax or the Canadian GST from the PST rather than have them combined. You can run reports totaling both. In the case of churches or schools that are tax exempt, you can change the tax rates to exempt status and be able to print reports showing revenue produced for tax exempt customers. Earlier in parameters, we set up the different kinds of discounts available, and here is where we start to use them. On this, the overall customer screen, we can give a discount that will affect all services, such as senior citizen or employee discount. One-time discounts, such as referrals, will be assigned when we set up the services. The way most lawn, tree, and pest companies bill their customers is with an invoice due at the time of service. That is what we call regular invoicing. However, we realize that there may be deviations. In the billing type field, we offer different options. You can charge installments, where instead of charging for each service done, you can just charge a set monthly fee, billed either on statements or with coupons like your auto loans. You can even invoice the customer for services without showing it due. Rather, you can just tell them that they will be billed for it later on their statements. Lawn mowing and maintenance companies prefer this method of billing. If you have permission to charge a customer's credit card for services completed, you can indicate it here, and when services are posted, they will be charged automatically if you wish. For this example customer though, let's just leave it as regular invoicing. The since date is basically the date this record was loaded into the system and will default to today's date. However, if you wish to change it to the sales date, last night for example, it can easily be changed. We have now completed the main customer screen and need to save it by clicking on the button that looks like a diskette. If at any time we had realized that we did not want to add this customer, we could have hit the undo or delete buttons. As we save this record, we are told that we need to enter a source. Remember, back in parameters, we had indicated that this was a field that needed to be entered. If the source reports are to have any integrity, we want to make sure that this field gets used. After we fill in the source, we can save it for real. Notice that now an account number has been assigned. This unique identification number, assigned sequentially, is the key to distinguishing one customer from another. We may have several customers named Nelson and have lots of people on Maple Court, but we will only have one account 246792. We will take a look at the other tabs in a minute, but first, let's click on the Diagram tab. Here, we can scan in a drawing you made of the property, insert a scanned or digital photo, or even draw your own diagram using the Microsoft Paintbrush tools. This diagram will always be available for viewing here, and you can even have different pictures relating to different services, as we will see later. These diagrams can print along with the customer's invoices as you wish. Maybe you need to print when generating their lawn care invoices, but not for tree care. You make that decision.
Let's go and schedule some services for this customer. The Lawn and Pest Assistant has two types of schedules: a set of interdependent services, which we call programs, or unique services, whether done once or repeated, which we call special jobs. Let's start with a program for Mr. Nelson.
We click on the program's New Record button and come to a blank page. There are a lot of fields here, but don't worry, very few companies will use all of them. We start by choosing which program this customer gets. Let's say that he is a full program lawn care customer. Notice that as soon as we make that selection, most of the fields fill in automatically from decisions we made when setting up parameters. So we might be done already, but let's look anyway. Most companies renew their customers' programs during the off-season, but in some cases, such as Florida, you may wish to send renewal or prepay letters through the year on their anniversary date. If so, you can designate the renewal date by clicking here. You can set up services for future years if you wish, but let's just keep it for this year. Once the current year is over, we will run a utility to reschedule for next year. If we had made the customer a call ahead on the front page, then each invoice they get, including everything in this program, will be indicated as such. If the customer only needs to be called ahead for their lawn care, because of their mowing schedule for example, then we can mark that here with the reason. You can also assign the program a distinct status. As an example, maybe Mr. Nelson was a tree care customer and called in for a lawn care estimate. You would want to keep it on the same master account, but not have it considered active. The property size is filled in automatically with what was on the front page, but can be changed if you are doing the front lawn only, for example, and the prices will change. There is also a space here to fill in if another customer referred this customer to you. We can run reports based on this information if you wish. We can change the source if desired. Most of the time you'll keep the reason the same as the customer source, but maybe they started this service as a result of a special effort on your part. Once again, the more information you have on your sources, the better you can run your business. We can also change the billing type here. For example, if this was a mowing customer who wanted to pay a set monthly fee for those services, but you want to charge the fertilizing on a per invoice basis, you can do that. It all depends on your policy. When we chose the program, you probably noticed that the price per service filled in automatically. This was based on the customer's property size and the price tables we set up earlier in parameters. Now let's say this is not an ordinary 7,500 square foot lawn. Maybe it is more difficult to service because it has a lot of trees on the property, or it is located well outside your usual service area. You can assign a price multiplier here, a degree of difficulty just like they do with Olympic divers. If this lawn is 50% tougher to do, we change the difficulty rating from 1 to 1.5 and we see the prices increase by half. You might also raise or lower prices for certain neighborhoods. Why do this rather than just raise the prices manually? The Lawn and Pest Assistant can furnish reports on services that are grossly under or overpriced according to the property size, and it would take this difficulty multiplier into consideration. This is a feature that you may rarely use, but its availability might make your customer management much easier. At the end of the year, you may wish to raise customers' prices, but possibly not for those just sold this year or who had their prices raised just last year. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will keep track of when this program last had its price raised. You may change its dates manually if you promise this certain customer he would not have any price hikes for 2 years, for example. On the main customer page, we could have indicated that all of this customer's services would be discounted, maybe for senior citizens. That would be reflected here on the program page too. We can change that here if necessary, maybe giving a full program discount to new customers expiring at year's end, but only for their lawn care. Once again, the Lawn and Pest Assistant is very flexible in allowing you to run your business the way you want to. One of the Lawn and Pest Assistant's strengths is helping you route your services in the most efficient manner possible. Over the many years Real Green has been performing lawn care services, we have tried and tested many philosophies, and we believe that we have discovered the best way. As we mentioned earlier, we consider one route to equal one service vehicle. Now, with a normal lawn care schedule, you will probably perform services about 6 weeks apart. With 5 working days per week, that is 30 service days per application cycle. However, you may have as many as you wish. We call those service days day codes. We feel, as I am sure that you do, that you would want the same driver to perform each service for any given customer in any given area with his neighbors along the same 6-week schedule. So, if Mr. Jones and his neighbors were to be done by Truck 1 on the first day of Round 1, then they would be scheduled as Route 1, Day Code 1. When Round 2 comes along, they would be done on the first day of service then also, and so on for the year. So, you will want to divide your current customers up into days' worth of work, something you may already have done. If not, the Lawn and Pest Assistant has many utilities to help. When you get very used to the system, you may also wish to set up the sequence in which you want to do the services on each day. Now, for our new customer, Mr. Nelson, we already have determined that his property is to be treated by Truck 2, just like his neighbors. Let's look at his neighbors' lawn care programs by clicking on the binoculars in the light blue section. We see that Mr. Nelson's neighbors are all scheduled for day 10, and that his closest neighbor has a sequence of 80, which means he is the 8th one scheduled for that day. We recommend spacing the sequences like that so that we can fit in people between, like we will with Mr. Nelson. We can change his sequence to 81 to be done right after Mr. Frederick's. Even if you are already past day 10 on your calendar, leave him here. He will generate immediately for this round and then show up according to a schedule with his neighbors next round.
We've talked about finding routes and day codes using existing neighbors' information. But what if there's nobody else on that street in your customer base? Well, the Lawn and Pest Assistant has associated with a companion program to help with such situations. This extra program will help find other people in the area and put them on a map for you to see.
Here we have Dr. Kavanaugh on Oak Ridge in Brighton. Clicking on the binoculars, we find nobody else on that street. What we can do is change the search to look for everybody in that city, which brings up a list. But who is closest to our new customer? Let's click on the button in the lower left, the one that looks like a push pin. That will put all the people from Brighton on a map along with Dr. Kavanaugh. His house is right in the middle. Let's zoom in. We see his house represented by a yellow circle. The color of the circle symbolizes the kind of service, in this case, lawn care. The light blue represents pest control customers, and we would not want to route Dr. Kavanaugh in with a pest control route. We have found the nearest lawn care customers and identified them. Now, all we have to do is put Dr. Kavanaugh's day code the same as those two and fit a sequence in between them. This map locating system will work extremely well for you, whether you are looking for people on the same street, in the same city or zip, or even with similar or adjacent map codes. This extra program will work wonders for your routing efficiency. The price per service was calculated from the price table and recalculated by the multiplier. However, some companies charge more for certain services within a program than others. In that case, the most common price will appear here. There may be notes you wish to print on the invoices for just this customer and just this program. As an example, you wish to tell your driver that he should apply weed control only behind the garage while doing the lawn application. This is a note that you would not need printed on Mr. Nelson's tree and shrub or other invoices, so we would not have put it on the front page. By entering it here, the driver will see this message only on these lawn care invoices. We also have the opportunity to print program-specific notes that the customer will see on each invoice. Maybe this customer has the tendency to underwater the lawn and you want to give them an extra reminder. There is also the option of letting these notes drop off after a specified date. Just choose the expiration date. In the center section, we first see the services in order that are part of the customer's chosen program. First the code, then the description. Most importantly, though, is the schedule code for each service. The program will show a Y for yes on each service included in this program, but those can and will change. On round 1, for example, once the invoice is printed, it changes from a Y to a $sign and then to an S for serviced once it is posted as being completed. We can also unschedule a service. Let's say that Mr. Nelson never wants the late summer application. We can just change the Y to N for no. That way Mr. Nelson will never get that round 4. But what if he just doesn't want a service this year? Those are what we call skips and can easily be set. We have a set of skip codes available, and we just select the appropriate one. If a customer is sold later in the year, they might not get the early rounds this year, so we would skip them with a special code. You must use K for those kinds of skips because they are totaled separately on some important reports. These skips are extra revenue for next year. Other skips are lost revenue, services you had planned on doing, but now you cannot. Also, for the first application, you may wish to print its invoice immediately, no matter if its day code is currently due. Just change the Y to an asterisk and it will print up with the next batch with the text due ASAP on it. All skips, S's, $signs, and asterisks will change back to Y's for next year. The N's stay as N. The property's sizes and prices showed up automatically, but if one or more services need to be changed, you can certainly do that here. Maybe the spring and fall are the entire lawn, but the other services are front only. Maybe round 2 is front only just this year because of new seed throughout the back. We can note that and the price reverts back next year. We spoke earlier of discounts that would apply to all or several of a customer's services, but what you would find more likely is that you would need to discount just one service. Maybe you offer $15 off on the first service to new customers. If so, you would just put that discount code on as round 1. The customer's invoice will indicate the full amount of the service and also show the discount to him. Of course, you will always be able to run reports showing how many dollars you gave away in different discount categories. Now, you may have notes you wish on the invoice for just one service. For example, it may be your policy to have your technician knock on the door to introduce himself the first time he is out there. You just click in the note area for the desired service, and you will be taken to the notes section. This is where you can tell the technician that only the front lawn is to be done, for example, or that he needs to get a check from the customer before he does service. You can also type notes for just one service for just the customer to see. Both of these notes can be set to expire at any time as you wish. Also, on the bottom part of this screen are details about just the selected service, such as desired scheduled date and time, if desired, a call ahead for just this service, and a calculation of the actual charge of this service, gross and net. By clicking on the little magnifying glass, we flip to another panel for this program. The yellow areas may be filled in if we're entering an estimate request, which we will do later. The dark blue area would be if just this program was to be put on hold, and the red area would fill in if just this program were to be canceled. If the entire customer record got canceled, this page would be updated as well. The green area pertains to sales information, who sold it and when. The Lawn and Pest Assistant also allows you to split the sale between two people, which would be reflected on commission reports. If your company has a customer service representative who calls to confirm all of the sales department's sales, the Lawn and Pest Assistant can help you keep track of those matters also. Also down here are checkboxes indicating if a new customer letter is to be sent and if this program automatically renews. The default checks were determined back in parameters, but can be changed here if you wish. As we save this new program and exit, we go back to the main customer page. For most companies, this has already been as much or more information than you will usually enter. Once you get used to the Lawn and Pest Assistant, the normal customer entry will take you less than 2 minutes each. Let's take a look at other possibilities, though. We can enter another program for the same customer, completely independent of the first one. For example, Mr. Nelson's tree and shrub program gets set up just like his lawn care, but with different services, different notes, different sales information, but with the same default entries that we put on the front page. However, the property size does not fill in. That's because the Lawn and Pest Assistant knows that the size on the front page is expressed in thousands of square feet, but the tree care is to be measured differently. We will also take advantage of another feature unique to the Lawn and Pest Assistant. Let's say that for this program, we charge for the entire year's work when the first service is performed, as many companies do. However, you do not want to give the technician credit for doing $300 worth of production at the beginning of the year, nor do you want to give zero credit to the technicians who do the remaining applications. We have added a field called Production Value, which will default to the average dollar amount of all services, but can be changed as you wish. Therefore, each technician who services Mr. Nelson's trees and shrubs, no matter which round it is, will be credited with doing $50 worth of work. As we are about to continue, let's say we get a phone call. Somebody wants a lawn care estimate. We can open a second customer screen just by clicking the Estimate button up top, and a new screen appears right over the previous one. In fact, you can always open multiple screens no matter where you are in the program. On this new person, let's go through the same process as Mr. Nelson, but we need to treat it as an estimate for lawn care, not an active customer. We can only enter the information we know, so let's put in the name and address. Just like before, the Lawn and Pest Assistant will look for duplicates. Maybe you did an estimate for them last year, or you serviced the lawn for the previous owner, so you already know the property size and can quote a price right over the phone. If not, we can continue. Once again, let's click on the binoculars and look for Mrs. Randolph's neighbors. We have somebody just a few houses away, so we can automatically fill in quite a bit of information right now. Probably the only other information you would have would be the source, how they heard of you. We will leave this person as status 0, which would mean the person is a lead, but the estimate form has not yet been printed. We need to go to the program page to indicate that this is an estimate for lawn care, although the actions we would take would be the same for whatever we might estimate. We might also need to write some notes that will be printed on the estimate sheet. We can keep track of who actually called in, who took the lead call, and who referred her to us, if it is a referral. From this page, we can print the estimate sheet now, or wait until later and print all waiting estimates. Either way, once the estimate has been printed, the status changes from 0 to 1. After the lead has been rendered, you can follow the progression of this prospect, first by updating the status, and entering the quoted price and measurements, and keeping track of when it was run and when you should call back. If Mrs. Randolph initiates service with you later, you can change the status and fill in the sales information. If she declines your offer, you can keep track of that too by changing the status to 4 and recording the date and reason for rejecting you. Mrs. Randolph can then be resolicited next year by phone or mail with the correct price. You can even raise her quoted price when you raise all active customers' prices. Let's go back to Mr. Nelson's account and set up a one-time service, what we call a special job. By clicking on the new record icon, we come to a screen almost identical to the program screen. Our choices here are what we indicated in parameters might be specials. Let's set Mr. Nelson up for a core aeration. Much information gets filled in automatically, including size, because we set up aeration property measurement to be expressed in thousands of square feet, just like lawn care. Once again, we have many options in this entry, such as invoice messages, price changes, salesperson, but the big difference we see here is in the interval section. Since this is just a one-time service, we won't use this section, But let's see what happens when we set up Mr. Nelson for a mowing service. We want to say how many times we plan on mowing this year, putting a very high number if it is not finite. We also need to say how often it is to be scheduled. Let's say it is to be scheduled weekly, every Wednesday, through November 1st. After we post this work is done, the schedule date will move to the following Wednesday. Landscapers and maintenance companies often have jobs that have several different components. As an example, we might set up a spring planting jobs for this customer. In addition to entering the regular fields, we can break down this job into elements. This will utilize what we call work orders, accessed from the clipboard icon here. Each part of this job can be set up on its own line, with the customer being able to see all that was done. We just choose the component and the quantity, then the prices fill in according to what we set up in parameters. We can, of course, change the prices as we wish. We can even add labor as an item. Once complete, we can print a detailed proposal, a work order, which is just for your crew, a detailed invoice, or a detailed statement. I know many service companies sell and install Christmas decorations in the winter months, and the Lawn and Pest Assistance work order is designed to help you with that also. We just set up each element of the service as a line item, and since you will want your decorations to look the same next year, you can make a drawing or take a photo and set it up in the diagram section of this job, distinct from the diagram for the overall property, and print it up when you want to go up and set up for the next year. We have been talking mainly about lawn care, but our program, as you can tell, is designed for pest control also. The services, whether one-time jobs or continuing programs, get added just like the lawn and tree services we saw earlier. As we have expanded our program, we have made our program more amenable to the entire service industry. Let's look at some of the other tabs from the customer screen. The history screen is blank now, but will fill in when we post some work and payments done to Mr. Nelson's account. On a different, established customer, we are looking at the contact page, which has 3 separate sections. In the upper left, we can keep track of all correspondence that you have sent him, whether it was an individual letter generated or part of a mass mailing. The blue memo section can be used for the kind of notes that need not appear on the invoices. Maybe you can note every time a customer calls you with a question, or maybe you can keep track of your collection calls this way. The fuchsia area integrates with our contact manager. If this customer calls up and has a problem, you can assign that call to one of your technicians or managers and efficiently keep track of your customer service efforts. We will look at that contact manager module later. There are times when invoices, statements, and other mailings are to be sent to a location other than the service address. We handled those occurrences under the tab marked Billing. On that same customer, we would mark it as such an account and just fill in the name and address of the responsible party. When an invoice is generated for this property, 2 invoices will actually print if you wish. One will have no price, which is to be left at the property. Another will print with the price, and that one is meant to be mailed to the billing address. But what if this property is part of a large billing concern? Well, we can just handle that in the group billing area. We select what group they belong to, and the rest is taken care of for you. The invoices will print just like any other alternate billing address customers, but when the statements get run, all properties belonging to that group will print on one piece of paper rather than a separate sheet for each property. Also on this page, in the yellow section, we can indicate whether this customer is to be skipped when printing statements or charging interest. This would be handy if you have sent this customer's account to a collection agency for further efforts and you do not wish to make more attempts yourself. We can also flag this customer with one of the collection statuses we set up in parameters. Maybe this customer has been sent to collections. You can mark it as such and show the effective date. In the dark blue section, you can enter the customer's credit card information. If you enter an invalid account number, it even reminds you. You will also be able to run reports for customers whose credit cards are about to expire. One great feature, unique to the Lawn and Pest Assistant, is the ability to hide credit card numbers from unauthorized employees, as you defined by the parameter security codes earlier. We also have an area for the customer's checking account information. This is not an area that you fill in. Instead, the first time you receive a payment from this customer, the bank routing and account number will fill in automatically when you scan in their check. Each following time that you receive a check from that bank account, the Lawn and Pest Assistant will automatically credit the money to this account. On the Customer's Property tab, you can show some further information if desired. Data such as the pH of the lawn and global position can end up being very useful in later application, such as routing and servicing. In the area below, you can list the property inventory. As an example, you can show the grass type in front, back, or in the entire lawn. You can also show the number and types of trees. Basically, whatever you want to count, you can do it here. The aging page is a read-only screen, so you do not enter anything here. The information that shows here reflects what has been posted. This customer shows that he owes money from the current month and last month also. This other customer shows that there is still an amount of prepay money remaining. If you decide to bill some customers a monthly fee instead of on a per-service basis, you would set up those monthly fees under the Installments tab. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will help you calculate amounts once you indicate which services will be part of this contract. It is possible that a customer's maintenance services will be covered by the contract, but the fertilizing will be invoiced upon service completion. The Lawn and Pest Assistant can certainly handle such situations and bill them accordingly.
We have now successfully entered a new customer. Now in this example, we've used many more fields than you would ever really use for a real customer. In your company, once you get comfortable with the Lawn and Pest Assistant, you'll be able to enter a new customer in about 2 minutes. Honest.
Let's exit this customer for a second. Now, suppose Mr. Nelson calls up and asks for a service call to spray his weeds. We will first want to find his account. We will go to the Customer button and use the search feature. If we know his account number, we can just enter it in. But most of the time, a customer is not going to know that off the top of his head. So, we search using whatever information we do have. We can just enter in Nelson or even NEL and find the one we want. You can search by address or even phone number. Once again, we see the color codes: green for active customers, yellow for estimates, and red for canceled customers. If a prospect calls up and asks for references on his street, you can easily pull them up, but only tell him about the active people. We double-click on Mr. Nelson, which brings us to the familiar main page. Now, service calls are considered the same as any other special job. They just have no charges entered for them. So we click on the new record icon down here in the yellow. We just choose Service Call and enter ourselves as the salesperson so that the technician knows who took the call. Now the important part, we have to tell the technician why he is going out there. We can print the service call form now or wait until the end of the day and print all service calls at the same time. Now, let's say the unfortunate happens and a customer calls you saying that he is moving and needs to cancel his service. We search and find his account, then just change his status from active to canceled moving. We also need to state a reason for the cancellation. Once we cancel the main account, all services get canceled also. With this particular status code, we can mail letters to the new homeowner in the fall, already having the measurements and prices for this property. Now, let's say the opposite situation occurs. A customer who had canceled you previously has a change of heart and wants to reinstate service. We just change the status back to active and we're done, right? No! We realize the very genuine possibility that the customer might not want to restart all services he had previously had, so each service needs to be considered individually. Other software programs ignore these cases, and the customers end up getting services performed they never wanted.
Now that we have familiarized ourselves with the customer file, let's print up some work for our guys to do today. But first, let's talk about the notes that can go on the invoices. Now, for many customers, the most important part of your service are the notes that are left on the invoice when you do the service. Now, we allow several opportunities for you to leave pre-printed notes on the invoice, whether general or specific. There is an enormous amount of room to say whatever you want to express.
One area that is unique to our program is the Invoice Message Gallery, which can include text or graphics. This area could be just a statement of what you performed that day. You could give detailed instructions as to what care they need to perform. You could leave expansive analysis of the products you applied. You could try to sell other services or solicit referrals. This is one of the areas where the Lawn and Pest Assistant can help you grow your company and make more money. Let's quickly add an invoice message to sell grub control. We would get into Microsoft Word, insert the graphics, and type the desired text. Don't worry about too much information here. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will shrink your message to fit in the designated space. Once we have what we want, we just copy and paste into the parameter box. If we wish to change it, we can just open it back up, double-click, and that takes us back into Word to edit and save again. You can have more than one current sales message at a time, so that you can sell different services to different types of customers. An accompanying feature to the sales message would be the sales checkbox, printed on the remittance portion, where the customer could respond to your offer just by checking the box when they send in their current payment. Instead of the sales message, you may wish to print just some basic cultural instructions. You have that ready-made option available to you. Now, we can go to the Invoices Direct button. As with the customer entry screen, we have worked very hard to make things easy for you. You have many options here, but we believe their utilization is very accommodating. And if you ever get tired of the basic gray color of the screens, they can be changed by altering your Windows settings. First, on this screen, you can print for any or all of the company names or branches you had set up. Now, for most of you, this will not be an option you will need. We will need to choose which services we wish to print in this batch. For our example here, let's keep it simple and just print the first lawn care application. We also need to indicate who gets printed today. And once again, we'll keep it simple, asking for customers in all lawn care routes, but only for day code 10, which we know is where Mr. Nelson is. Much of the time, this is as much as you will need to do for a day's selection, at least when you start the year. We can print just residential properties, just commercial properties, or both, as we will do now. We will then generate the invoices. Then we can print them. We will first, though, print a list of the customers generated. This driver's report gives a synopsis of the invoices in this batch. The names, addresses, prices, and sizes for each stop are listed, along with the special notes and call-ahead information. After reviewing it, we can print the invoices.
The invoices offered by Real Green come in many different colors. Many companies use a different color for different services, such as green for lawn care, tan for pest control, or blue for tree care, for example.
Let's look at Mr. Nelson's invoice. The first thing we see is the barcode. This will identify this customer, this service, this invoice when scanned, either in the field or at the office. In the top section, which only the driver will see, we have the service address and other property information, but most prominently, we see that this customer needs to be called in advance of service. We also see the notes that we entered, both the kind that will appear on all of his invoices and the one that will appear for this service only. In either case, we have room for the driver to acknowledge that he had read these notes as we had instructed back in the parameters. We are also given a list of the services Mr. Nelson is scheduled for. Since he is shown to be a tree care customer, we certainly would not want to criticize his tree care practices. There is also a history grid printed for which Mr. Nelson is blank. Let's quickly look at another customer's invoice that does have some history. We can see the payments received and the services we have completed on this property, when they were done, and by whom. We can also see the products supplied each time and the comments made by the technician at that time. In the center section, the part that the customer keeps, we see the description of the service, as we entered in parameters, and the sales message for grub control that we designed earlier. To the right, we see a recap of the costs of today's services. We see the full price, the discount given, the sales tax, and the remittance amount. Another customer, as we see here, who owed money for a previous service, has that balance added on to this invoice, along with the appropriate collection message if overdue. Let's go back and generate invoices, making a few more selections. Let's say that we are in the middle of the year doing the summer application, round 3. We would certainly not want to print up round 3 for a customer if round 2 had been delayed and was just done yesterday. Therefore, we will give a minimum number of days between services. Now, of course, this is the number of days since the previous service in that program. We will not base the lawn care schedule on when the last shrub treatment was done. Normally, you may wish to do your treatments 35 days apart, but let's set it to 4 weeks, and here I'll show you why. As an example, let's say that we are in service day 17 of this round. Possibly, some of the customers in day code 17 had their round 2 delayed by a few days, so they have really gone just 31 days since their last service. We'd want to route these customers in with their neighbors again, right? Your goal is to make the most efficient use of your personnel and your trucks. We will once again choose all routes, but instead of just choosing day code 17, we want to choose days 1 through 17. If a customer from day 13, let's say, did not get his invoice printed on his correct day because he owed too much money at the time, or his previous round was very late and is now eligible, you would want his round 3 invoice to be printed now so that you can do a service as soon as possible. That way, he will be routed in with his neighbors again in round 4. We are letting the computer always hold off on invoices that you cannot yet do and print them up when they become eligible. These are tasks that you can let the computer do instead of yourselves. There is no reason that you should have to spend an extra hour per day choosing your invoices when the Lawn and Pest Assistant can do it for you. Let's talk a little more about routing using day codes. Let's say that this map represents your entire service area, or just the area serviced by one technician. The way many companies schedule their services is straight west to east. This section the first week, here the second, and so on. Kind of a scorched earth policy. Other companies use the army ant procedure, sending all their trucks into an area until it is finished, then moving on. However, what would happen if you get a new customer during the 4th week of a round who lives in the part of your territory that you thought you had completed in the 1st week? You'd either hold his service until the next round, which would be unlikely, or you would send one truck all the way there, maybe driving an extra hour for just one customer. Not very efficient, is it? We recommend setting up your day codes differently than that. Let's say that we service our first day's customers in this section. The next day, we go out here. Day 3 might bring us here. Depending on the concentration of the customers, we might come back here again, but not the next day. We would want to come back in a week or so later. We will continue this scheme, which we call a star pattern. As you see, we plan on being in the same basic area every few days, so that we can easily go back to that new customer late in the round because we will be nearby anyway. Even if we are not exactly in the neighborhood tomorrow, we will likely be close or be traveling by that area this week. This way we can efficiently route this new customer for this service and hopefully get them scheduled with their neighbors next round.
Now, you will always have new customers or service calls coming in, along with stragglers, such as call-aheads you haven't been able to do, customers who finally paid for the previous service, or other customers who just requested that you hold off service for a couple of weeks. You want your technicians to be working on the properties as much as possible, not driving all over the state. Now, we've used the day code procedure here and helped implement it in several hundred different companies, always increasing average daily productivity.
Even if you stay with your familiar one zip code at a time procedure, the Lawn and Pest Assistant can help you. Once again, we choose which services to get. Maybe we are cleaning up the last of round 2 and starting round 3 for one truck. We once again choose 4 weeks for the same reasons we did with the day codes. Let's choose the zip code tab and select the areas we wish to send our technician to. This will print the invoices in zip code order and within each zip code by street name. Or, if you wish, you can sort them by map code within each zip code. You can even sort them primarily by map code, then by street name using these windows. As before, we generate the invoices, but this time we will view the list before printing. As we see, we have 47 customers generated for 300,000 square feet of property, much more than we want to print up if we were generating for just one driver. Do you see how all of these show up pre-selected with the Y for yes in the first column? We can deselect certain individuals until we have the desired route, or we can exclude all of them and add them back one at a time to cherry pick a route. We can also select by territory or map code in addition to route or zip. As we set up in parameters, invoices will not print for customers who are scheduled for the previous service in a program that has not yet been completed, or if the customer owes too much money for too long, and certainly will not print if the invoice for that service has already been printed. However, if you print individually by customer number, these safeguards will be bypassed, so you will have the flexibility to print, but be careful. When selecting by any method, you will have the additional option of using their property inventory as criteria. Maybe you wish to do tree spraying, but only for customers who have fruit trees. This option will be especially helpful in the southern U.S., where different types of grasses need to be serviced differently in certain times of the year. For each of the batch selection methods, the Lawn and Pest Assistant will allow you to see beforehand the amount of available work. First, we select which service, then the number of days since last service. If we access the Query tab, we can select zip code, and the computer will search and return all customers who fit the criteria grouped by zip. We can then make our selections. Also, remember how we set up the invoice information in parameters? Well, we can change them as we wish for just this invoice run by clicking the Options button. For instance, we may wish to generate invoices for all seeding jobs regardless of account balance restrictions. We can do so now, but only those employees with a correct security code have this right. The simplest way to route your customers more effectively is to send one truck to a customer's property to do services rather than 2 trucks. During invoice selection, we allow you to select 2 services to associate to print on the same invoice. As an example, you may wish to print your round 3 invoices along with grub control for the customers who are scheduled for both. It is very easy to associate them. Many companies want to send out just one truck to do both the lawn and tree care. This makes it very simple. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will always consider them separate services, but just makes things so much easier for the driver and the customer. Let's take a quick look at a multi-service invoice. You can see that each service is explained separately, each with its own cost, but the remittance section combines them. When printing special jobs, we follow almost the same procedure. The only difference is that we do not base the selection on when the last service of the program was completed. Instead, we look at the scheduled date. If we are printing invoices for core aerations, we will ask for those scheduled up to and including today. We would certainly not want to print the fall aerations in the spring, for example. For repeating services, like a 2-application fungicide treatment, we would still use the schedule date because once the service is completed, the next one is rescheduled according to that date. In other words, if you schedule your fungicide to be repeated every month and the first one gets done on the 15th of June, the next one becomes scheduled automatically for the 15th of July. Once again, we see that the tree care and pest control invoices can be generated this same way. This is also the way we would generate service calls, just by printing all the ones that came in recently that have not yet been printed. You might want to print service calls separately from other services, however. Here is an invoice for a regular service. There is a lot of room for pre-printed notes explaining the service, with a few lines available for handwritten messages. Service calls, however, might require just the opposite, so we have designed a custom form that gives less room for pre-printed notes and offers lots of lines for your technician to write. For any of these services, you can also print up the accompanying property diagrams, like we did for Mr. Nelson. Remember, the more information your technician has with him, the better he can serve that customer.
Now there might be some services for which you do not need to print invoices, such as mowing. You just want to print a list of the lawns to be mowed that day and give them to your crews. Now we talked to several maintenance companies about the ideal way to print these, and we come up with a worksheet procedure. Let's take a look.
When we first come to this screen, we see the special jobs scheduled for tomorrow, grouped by route. We had indicated earlier that for this worksheet, we wanted only to see our mowing routes. In addition to those scheduled for tomorrow, we would probably want to add to the worksheet some of the jobs that did not get completed today. The problem with other software programs designed for mowing companies is that you have to sit down and record all of the day's work before you assign the next day's. That is not the case with ours. The Lawn and Pest Assistant will offer all of today's work as candidates for reassignment, and you choose which ones you want, one by one. You can choose any type of special job for inclusion, and even move them from one crew's worksheets to another, and have it apply for just this time out. As we look at this worksheet, we see each property, the job that is to be done, the notes we entered, and room for your crew to mark its completion and times done. Let's go out on a lawn with one of our technicians. There are several ways you can proceed here. The Lawn and Pest Assistant's invoice, remember, is in 3 parts, with the driver returning only the top third. We have designed it so that the tech can fold over the top third, and that anything he writes, including his name, the date and time, and any notes to the customer on the customer's portion, will copy through onto your part. We feel it is very important to know exactly what your technicians are telling your customers, and this unique invoice will allow you to see that. On the technician's portion, he would also keep track of any extra products applied, weather conditions, and any of the condition codes we talked about earlier. Maybe this customer is cutting the grass too short or not watering enough. In addition to informing the customer, it is important that this information is added to the customer's history. A new option available to users of the Lawn and Pest Assistant is the ability for the technician to record the work done on-site by use of this handheld computer. He would just scan the barcode and record the current date and time along with information about what service is being done. He can also record the products, condition codes, weather conditions, and even type in messages that he deems important. All of this information can be downloaded into your main computer that evening and make your office staff's workload much less the next day. Even if you do not use the handheld computers, your technician can still help record his work done. He or your service manager can just scan the invoice's barcodes at the end of the day, entering as much other information as you wish, and get a printout of each technician's activity for the day. We call this module the Tech Scan, and it is included with a basic Lawn and Pest Assistant program. Just like with a handheld download, this information is not posted directly to the customer's accounts. Instead, it is stored and able to be reviewed by your office staff before posting. If you do not choose to have your technicians do any of the computer work, it will still be very simple for your office staff to enter the day's work. Basically, you would enter the date and the technician's name for this batch of work and scan in the invoices. There is even a way to split production between several employees. The customer and service information fills in automatically, along with the products and amounts we specified back in parameters. You will have the opportunity to also enter the time the work was done, the weather conditions, those important condition codes, any extra products applied, and any extra notes. You have the option of skipping any of this information that you do not feel is important. At the end of this batch, We just print or view the list of the entries, and if correct, post them. We always give you the opportunity to review your work before posting them to customers' accounts. Using this procedure, you will find that you will be able to completely enter each technician's work in less than 5 minutes. It is possible that you can manually enter the invoice information instead of scanning, but the barcode reader will save quite a bit of time and possible error. Now we come to everybody's favorite subject, money. Here we are with today's mail. Unfortunately, the Lawn and Pest Assistant can't help you open up all the envelopes and remove their contents, but after that, it's a breeze. We will use this check reader, which scans and records all of the numbers off the bottom of a check. That information, once it has been scanned, gets recorded in the appropriate customer's file, like we saw earlier. For regular payments, we just put the check through, and it brings up the right customer. It also assumes that the customer is paying their full balance, so that field is filled in for you also, along with the check number, which it reads off the check. If the customer pays a different amount, you can, of course, change it. When you come to a new customer, like Mr. Nelson, the Lawn and Pest Assistant will not recognize his checking account number, so for this first time, you will need to enter his Lawn and Pest Assistant customer account number to connect him with his bank account. Next time, his payment will go through easily. We will say that he is paying only for his lawn treatment, not his aeration yet, so we enter $61.22. We are then notified that this customer does not owe exactly $61.22. This safeguard alerts you to the possibility that you have entered the wrong account, the wrong dollar amount, or that the customer just plain underpaid. Remember, if there is an underpayment or overpayment, that balance will just be added or subtracted from the next invoice.
With the Lawn and Pest Assistant, you can even break down one large check, like from a property manager, and easily allocate those to the individual accounts. Now there may be times when you can't scan in a payment, such as with money orders or cash, but you can post those almost as quickly. Credit card payments are also easily processed. Now once again, at the end of the batch, you will view or print a list of all the entries and check it for correctness. If you see that somehow you did make a mistake, just double-click on the entry and edit it. Now we strongly advise that you check your work before posting. Everybody makes mistakes once in a while. After the envelopes have been opened and the manual processing done, you'll find that it will take you about half the time to post payments as it does to post your production. Now how much time have we saved you so far?
Probably the most involved part of our program, at least from our end of it, is processing prepayments. But Real Green has continually updated its program to make this easier and more intuitive. When a prepayment is received, we basically just need to tell the program what is being prepaid. All scheduled services, just lawn care, just tree care. We can easily allocate those monies in this section here. We have even anticipated the situation where a customer prepays after receiving the first service. Those situations used to be an accounting nightmare, but they're almost automatically taken care of with our program now. I say almost automatically because there might be situations when a customer owes money from last year, then prepays for the next season. You certainly would not want to discount that old service, would you? Another type of entry that does not occur daily is what we call balance adjustments, crediting or debiting an account. Let's say that when we went out to Mr. Nelson's property to do the aeration, we broke a sprinkler head. After apologizing to him, we will just go to our adjustment screen, enter his account number and the dollar amount. We will also choose a reason for the credit. Earlier, we had set up a reason called Sprinkler Damage Credit. When Mr. Nelson gets his next statement, he will actually see that description as a line item. We feel that this is a much more preferable way of balance adjustment than just changing the original price to reflect the difference. Where is the accountability and history there? Now that we have done some posting, let's look at Mr. Nelson's account. On the front page, we see that he now has a balance due. On another customer, we see by the big red credit hold that not only does he have a balance due, it is so old or so high that we will not service this customer again until he pays. Back at Mr. Nelson's account, we can see, even from the front page, that his lawn care round 1 has been completed. See the S? But the dollar sign tells us that his tree care round 1 has been printed, but not yet completed. Let's double-click on his lawn care program. We can see the dates printed and completed, the invoice number, and the technicians involved. We can even reprint the exact invoice later if the customer lost it. We even have the capability to reverse this entire service if we find that we had somehow posted it in error. The customer's history page tells us much more information. We can scan the grid to find the desired transaction, and all of its information is displayed for us. We see everything we entered about this lawn care round, his aeration, his payment, and the credit adjustment. We see not only when it was done, but also when it was entered into the computer and by whom. We even see who sold that service and when. If you have ever looked at another software package, you certainly did not see any page packed with as much information as this, and it is so easy to read. We talked earlier about aging categories and interest charges. Those are accomplished through the aging menu. We simply check whether or not we want to charge interest at this time. This procedure will review all of each customer's history and age it accordingly. If part of the balance is over the time limit you had specified, an interest charge will be generated. You will always be able to review the interest charges before actually posting. We are now ready to print statements for customers who owe money. Most companies send statements once a month to customers who owe for more than 30 days. Sending statements this way is very, very easy. We make this one-time setup saying that the customer has to owe a minimum amount, let's say $10, and bypass customers who owe for less than 30 days, showing just year-to-date history. They are now ready to print. There are several other options for companies who wish to be a little more creative. You can print statements showing just the activity from last month if you wish. This would be helpful when sending statements to your mowing customers or others whom you had set as not showing invoice charges at the time of service. In that case, we would also include those who have only a current balance. You can send statements immediately after charging those monthly fees we talked about by choosing from the Type tab. You can even send statements only to your active customers or only your canceled customers, residential or commercial, or individually by customer number. Let's take a look at one we printed for Mr. Nelson. We see each service performed, the payment received, and even the descriptive credit applied to his account. Another customer shows a balance that is considerably older, so one of the overdue messages we wrote will appear here. Statements print on a letter-sized form with a perforated section that should be returned with payment and are designed to be folded along the perforation, then back again. They then can be inserted easily into our standard number 10 double window envelope and mailed. These envelopes also work if you have to mail an invoice to a customer. We also have slightly smaller envelopes, number 9 size, that you can leave at the time of service or even send out with the statements. They are also double windowed, showing the customer's address as the return address and yours as the mailing address. Earlier, we talked about group billing. This was a situation where you might have 7 properties all billed to the same company. Instead of 7 separate statements, we can print one statement subtotaling each of the 7 properties. You can even print reports breaking down the balance for the group property by property. We had looked at a customer earlier for whom we had set up a monthly payment plan. There are 3 ways that you can actually bill them for that fee. You can print an invoice for that fee, send a statement as we discussed earlier, or print coupons. You can use all 3 methods if you wish. They are only going to be charged once per month. The coupons are similar to those you might have for your car loan payments. They come 3 to a sheet, have the amount due on each coupon, and have a due date also. There are a lot of companies that believe this is a great option to give to the customers. Instead of charging a customer $40 for each of 6 treatments, for example, you can send 12 coupons for only $20 each. The customer believes that he is actually saving money. Let's talk about reports. We have tons of them. No matter what you want to know, we are likely to have the exact report you want. Let's take a look at some of them. An important report you will want will deal with sales made. You will want to know who sold what and for how much. You can break it down by programs versus specials, by whatever dates, whichever salesperson, or even include those that have canceled since they started. This last option will help you compare this year's sales with the same period last year, for example. This, like other reports, gives you 3 options of display. You can list the individual records, you can show a total for each day, or you can give just one lump sum. The Lawn and Pest Assistant has allowed you to include or exclude discounts that you have given the customer. Many companies say that they do not want to pay a sales commission on revenue that really doesn't exist. You may have noticed this green box here and on other screens. You can print the report, view it on screen, Or you have the option of exporting the generated data to a file. You may wish to email your sales information to your home office or dump it into a spreadsheet for your own further analysis. You can even copy the data directly onto a diskette if you wish. You may also have seen this little folder on some screens. This will allow you to designate this report as one of your favorite reports. It will save these choices and will automatically print to whatever printer you assign by going to Reports menu and clicking on Favorites. You just name it however it makes sense to you. As an example, I might want to save this report for programs sold by the sales unit as a favorite separate from sales made by the lawn technicians or sales by the office staff. I will never need to come to this page and make my choices again. You can even categorize the favorite reports. Maybe I want to run some reports every Monday and other reports only on the first of the month. We can just create those divisions and assign each report to the desired spot. Another sales report that many companies use for commission purposes looks at the services done, broken down by salesmen. Let's say you have somebody sell a program in March, but that customer never gets done or cancels after just one service. You would not want to pay commission on the whole year's revenue, would you? With this report, you would be able to give a continuing commission each time this property gets serviced for as long as you wish. You can even run this report for when those services get paid for instead of when they get produced. These options give your salespeople more of an incentive to stay at your company throughout the season and even from year to year if you wish. They will also allow you to reward the technician if he makes a sale and keeps that customer satisfied. Among our other sales reports is one that will easily track the growth of your customer base. Simply stated, we can look at the number of customers at the beginning of any date range, count the sales and cancels during that time, and show the ending customer count. Included in this report are the cancellation and growth percentages, and even the number of customers who got sold and then canceled during this time period. This report gives great flexibility, allowing you to select, sort, and subtotal in many different ways. You can see which city is showing your greatest or least growth, which method of advertising is most effective, or which technician has the best retention rate, for example. We have a similar report that deals only with cancellations. You can once again select, sort, and subtotal in many different ways. This report not only will tell you how many cancels you received, but also shows you a comparison, percentage-wise, of why they are canceling. If you can see that a disproportionate number of your customers in a certain area are canceling due to poor service, you would want to take action, right? Probably the most important report we have is called the Season Summary. This information is crucial to planning for your business. This report basically tells you the amount of revenue you have, the amount you have done, and the amount you have yet to do. These are expressed in number of services, area to be serviced, and dollars of revenue. However, it is not always that simple. If a customer cancels after getting round 1, for example, the revenue will be included in round 1, but not in the other rounds. From the amount yet to do, we can subtract the revenue that we have put on hold and the revenue we cannot plan on doing because the customers are in credit hold, meaning that they owe too much money for you to service again. We also tell you the amount of services that are skipped this year but will be scheduled next year. Remember when we talked about skips and I said K skips need to be used for late starts? Well, this report breaks down the skips and shows the revenue available next year for those K skips and also the revenue for other skips that we couldn't do this year, which represents lost revenue. Finally, we have next year's revenue, which has all the cancels taken out and all the skips added back in. Another great report we have gauges the weekly productivity of your personnel. For any date range, you can get the production completed, leads run, sales, and cancels expressed as a weekly total for all employees or grand totals for each employee. You'll be able to have a quick thumbnail representation of what your people are doing. Of course, we have the ability to print lists of customers, whether you want them by last name, zip code, map code, flag code, collection status, or any other way. You will be able to get that information. You can get customers who are scheduled for aerations, for example, or even get customers who are not getting an aeration. You can get prepaid customers, credit hold customers, call ahead customers, or even estimates. Speaking of estimates, we have several reports that will help you track them. A great report we have will list the source of the lead, whether the person got sold or not, and total them up. You will get your closing percentage and even the number of days it took each employee, on average, to determine their outcomes, sold or rejected. We have several different types of customer history: production, payments, adjustments, and installments, and we have detailed reports for all of them. Probably the most important to you would be the production report. If you pay any kind of production bonus to your technicians, you certainly would want to know how much work they did. This report not only shows you the dollars produced, the area serviced, and the number of production stops, you're also shown both the gross and net dollars of the production done, so that you are not penalizing the technician for discounts you have given or because the customer prepaid. Because of the information that we entered at the time of production entry, we can run reports showing customers who had certain condition codes, maybe for those that we noted needed aeration. We can also show all products and amounts applied, grouped by technician. That report was designed to meet the reporting requirements of many states, and we will continue to revise it as different states change their requirements. Just as important as the work you have done is the work that you have scheduled to do, and the Lawn and Pest Assistant can supply you with that information in many ways. The most popular such report will allow you to see a list of services that have not yet been completed. You can choose to see just one service or many if you wish. This, like all other reports, can be sorted in many different ways, whichever helps you most. Even by the critical sort, those who have gone the longest without a treatment. You can also generate this report only for customers according to their balance, or whether their invoice has been printed or not. You can even print a list of the ASAP customers for this service. Looking at this report, we can see their print date, whether they are on hold, credit hold, a call-ahead customer, and much more pertinent information. Earlier, we had aged the accounts. Now we can take a closer look at the results. Whether we want to look at slightly overdue customers, grossly overdue, or even all who owe money, we can do so. Let's say that you have 3 different people who make collection calls in your office. One person calls the customers who owe for over 30 days. Another calls for those over 60 days, and another calls those 90 days and older. You can run those reports separately, of course, but what if a customer owes for all 3 of those months? You wouldn't want him to appear on all 3 lists, getting called by all 3 people, would you? The Lawn and Pest Assistant allows you to specify that you want such customers to appear only on their oldest balance sheet. Once again, we want to help you run your business the most efficient way possible. You can run a list of the customers who have prepaid and track those separately from those who have simply overpaid. The overpaid balance report will help you find possible irregularities in your procedures. Possibly, an invoice was left at a property when the work was done, but never turned into the office, then the customer paid. In addition to zero balance accounts, customer balances can be categorized in 5 different ways: regular customers who owe money, regular customers who overpaid, prepaid customers who have also overpaid, and prepaid customers who also owe for other services. The reports generated by the Lawn and Pest Assistant are able to track and subtotal these balances to give you a truer picture of your accounts receivable and collections effectiveness.
One financial report that many of you will rely on is the sales tax summary. It can be run 2 ways. Either the accrual method, according to when the sales tax is charged, or in many states you can also run the cash basis, when it's received. The one grand synopsis of all financial reports is our general ledger.
Everything we enter, whether it is production, payments, adjustments, sales tax, discounts, or contract charges, gets posted to this report. It is a balance sheet with credits equaling debits, formatted for easy transcription into your own accounting software. Whether you have QuickBooks, Peachtree, Quicken, OneWrite Plus, or anything else, no matter what version, you would just plug these numbers from our general ledger into your appropriate accounts. Or you could just send this information over to your accountant, printed or as an email for his review. Once again, you see that we wish to give you the greatest flexibility possible. We have talked about printing invoices, statements, and reports, but there is likely to be another type of printing you would do on a regular basis. Estimates. Earlier, we took the lead from Mrs. Randolph, but didn't do anything with it. We could have printed the estimate immediately or waited until the end of the day and generated all pending estimates in a batch. On the estimate printing screen, we can tell it what we are generating. In this case, lawn care estimates for status 0 prospects. You can reprint estimates for other statuses, possibly individually for customers who call back the next year. These 0 status people, however, will change to status 1 after printing, so they will not print again tomorrow. Just like invoices, we can group these by route or zip, which will make it easier to distribute them to our technicians. When printing, the customer's name, address, directions, notes, and other pertinent information will print at the top of the form. The Lawn and Pest Assistant can accommodate your needs in 2 different ways when generating estimates. You can print the information on your own pre-printed forms, or the entire estimate form can be printed at this time. All you would need to do is design the form in a program like Microsoft Word and save it in the Lawn and Pest Assistant. You can even save multiple estimate forms, such as a different one for lawn care than for tree care.
We can accomplish this by using your inkjet or laser printer and these special forms. Assuming that you want to keep a copy of the estimate, we've designed these nature-themed forms on carbonless paper that actually come out of the box in white, yellow order. So you just print 2 copies, put them on your clipboard, anything you write on the front page goes through on the second. Now we also have them in a 3-part form that come out of the box white, pink, yellow. That way you can leave 2 copies with the customer, and they can sign one as a contract and return it. Or you can give 1 copy to the customer, 1 to your sales staff, and 1 to your office staff.
We have included some pre-written letters and also allowed you to write your own letters to customers that can be sent automatically. For instance, we talked about the confirmation letter to new customers. Those letters will feature your text welcoming the customer to your company while listing the services they have scheduled. The confirmation letter, like other letters, can be generated individually from the customer's account or printed in a batch whenever you wish. I think the batch printing would probably be easier for you if you wish to print on special letterhead paper. However, you can design your own letterhead and save it in the Lawn and Pest Assistant just like we did with the estimate forms. Another automatic letter would be used for collections. We have included some pre-written text you can change, requesting payment. You would assign each letter to an aging category with the more demanding messages going to the oldest accounts. Maybe once a week or once a month, you could just generate the letters and greatly improve your cash flow. You can also send letters automatically to customers who cancel for a certain reason, or even to those who had a certain condition noted when production was entered. What you certainly would use would be our prepayment letter. This is the type of letter that you would send in late fall or winter perhaps, offering a discount if the customer sends payment for the season in advance. This letter, printed on our colorful, eye-catching form, can work as a basic renewal reminder or even as a signed annual contract. It not only offers renewal on the customer's annual service, but can also offer services that the customer does not currently receive, and can offer a discount on those too if desired. Companies who have used this method and this form have saved dozens of hours of work over their old way and reported enormous increases in prepayments received and extra services ordered without any extra expense. Another feature that we first developed in our lawn care company is the ability to send postcards to customers offering services that they do not currently have. First, we select customers who are not scheduled for a service, let's say grub control. We design text and graphics like you did with the estimates and print them up on colorful cards that we have available. These sales cards have 2 panels per section, 2 sections front and back, and come 2 customers to a sheet. They are perforated between the customers. The customer's name and address prints at the top, and then our text and graphics print on the bottom, along with the generated price, which comes from the parameters and is based on their property size. You can even generate a special price if you're giving a certain percentage or dollar amount off. You can make the back of it a business reply card so they can just sign, separate, and mail. We include several examples of the cards with the program, and you can use them in your own company for different types of services. You're free to change them as you wish. In our lawn care company, we have studied the results and found that we generate about 5 times as much revenue from these cards as they cost us, labor and postage included. If you renew these services automatically, you can imagine the return on investment. Companies who have tried these cards never go back to the expensive and annoying telemarketing method. You can also use these cards to notify customers in advance of service, in which case, since there's nothing to return, they can be printed on our 4-to-a-page cards. Sometimes the cards, automatic letters, and forms are not exactly what you want to send to your customers. For those cases, we offer our own mail merge program. You can select any group of customers and send them letters including whatever information about them you wish. Let's do a quick example. We'll send a letter to customers trying to sell an aeration. We go through this one-time setup, selecting only active customers who have active lawn care programs and are not currently scheduled for an aeration. We then tell the program to select some information about these accounts. We would want their account number, name and address, along with the price from the price table parameter for the aeration based on their property size. Once the information is generated, we just go into Microsoft Word and write our letter. Wherever we wish to insert information specific to this customer, we just select it from our list. We can view it on screen and then print. If this seems a little difficult, don't worry. Our support staff will be happy to walk you through it, one step at a time. Sometimes changes need to be made to large groups or all of your customers, and the Lawn and Pest Assistant makes it easy and safe to do so. For example, if customers in part of your service area are changed to a new area code, it is quite easy to change their customer records. We also make it easy to change customers' prices. You can do so in 2 different methods. We can specify a certain dollar amount or percentage to raise the prices. In doing this, we specify what services would get that price change and what customers. Maybe you wouldn't want to raise prices of anybody just sold this year, for example. You can also raise the prices to what they should be according to the price chart. This report first identifies over or underpriced services, then gives you the option of changing the prices to exactly what they should be, or just a portion of that discrepancy.
Usually, the biggest change you'll make to your database is at the end of the year, when you roll over services for the next year. Real Green has made it very easy to do, but also put in safeguards so you can't do it by accident in the middle of the year, and you definitely cannot do it unless you have authorization to do so. You can imagine the chaos that would result if you accidentally closed out your year 5 months early. How do you get your new customers? Yellow page advertising? Referrals? Well, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you have to be more aggressive and proactive in growing your company. So we have incorporated a separate marketing database into our program to help you with your marketing and direct mail efforts.
There are companies out there from which you can get lists of homeowners in your area. You just tell them what zip codes and what other criteria you wish to choose, maybe average income level or age of neighborhood, and they will send you a list of homeowners in your area that fit those specifications on diskette, CD-ROM, or even by email. Here, we bring up a list that was just sent to our lawn care company. This particular list gives us new homeowners in our area. We just match up the fields from the list with the fields available in the Lawn and Pest Assistant and proceed. The program will then process those and then search for duplicates in our database. One at a time, we will see the duplicates found. Maybe, since these are new homeowners, we have the old homeowner on file when we previously treated or estimated that property. Maybe it is someone who has already called us for an estimate or is an active customer. Maybe even the list-making company made a mistake and sent us this person earlier this year. We'll make a decision on each one, choosing to keep this new person or delete him. Once these customers are in our marketing database, they can be treated in many ways just like our regular customers. You can look them up, see them in the light blue with their own account number. More importantly, you can make lists for calling or send them postcards like we do. Once we have contacted them and they have requested an estimate, we just go into that account and indicate that they want a lawn care estimate, for instance, and they will print with the other estimates, just like Mrs. Randolph's. Even the homeowners who decide not to go with their service this year will stay in our database so that we can try them again next year. Companies who have used the marketing database have found it to be a very, very effective way of growing their customer base.
In both our lawn care and software companies, we pride ourselves on customer service and support. Now, it used to be that our desks were full of message slips. We needed a computer program to help track and return those calls. Now, there are many fine contact managers out there, and we tried most of them. The problem was that they were separate programs, separate from our customers' histories and schedules. Also, any new customers had to be entered in both programs every day.
We got our own programmers involved and added our own contact manager module to the Lawn and Pest Assistant. This call log, as we refer to it, is fully integrated with the Lawn and Pest Assistant. Let's take a look at it. Please notice that it is password sensitive, so that when you log in, your own calls waiting pop up for you. We can return them immediately or wait until later. On the first screen, we come up to the customer search screen and view all outstanding calls. Let's say that we get a call from our friend Mr. Nelson. We can find his record if we have his customer number, but let's look him up by his last name instead. Okay, here he is. We could just jump straight to his account and see his account information and call history, but instead we will enter a new call for him. We would date timestamp this call and type in the message. We set up the status of the call and assign it to one of our employees. When Mike gets back into the office, this call will pop up for him to return. These calls do not have to be from actual customers. We can enter estimate inquiries, business calls, or even personal calls. You can even assign the same message to several employees. If you notice, there is a due date on the screen. We can set reminders for the future that will pop up at that time. I'm going to exit out and re-enter as Mike would. See how Mr. Nelson's call shows up? Let's look at just Mike's calls on the next screen. I can see some of the calls that he tried returning yesterday and others he may have looked at but haven't tried to call back yet, as indicated by the check in the Viewed box. If we click once on any of these calls, we see the notes already written. Double-clicking will allow us to return and edit the call. After viewing the call, most of the time we will just call the customer, settle it, make our notes, and mark it as resolved. But there are several other things you can do here. We can view all previous calls this customer has placed, as we can see on a more established customer. We can also jump right to that customer's main screen if we want. We can reassign this call to another employee or move up the due date if we wish. No matter what we do, we usually change the status. These call statuses are set in the call log's own parameters, where we can also set up some shorthand call reasons. You might have the type of office where not all employees have access to a computer. Therefore, we have added the ability to print messages for any or all employees. You can print the calls individually or list them, with or without the notes from the current call. You can also print the information for just one call from the detail page. There's even a management report showing how long it takes your employees to return and resolve calls. We feel we have greatly increased response time and customer satisfaction since using this call log system. Other companies who use it also have reported that their effectiveness has greatly increased. So can yours.
Well, that's the Lawn and Pest Assistant. Now, you may have noticed this yellow sign on the invoice screens. That refers to the Mapping Assistant, a separate program that maps and routes your stops in the most efficient manner possible. Now, John is going to take a little time and guide you through that program. John?
Thanks, Pete. We realized that our techs were losing valuable time each day, sitting down with the day's invoices and plotting them on a map. Not only was the driver spending an extra 30 to 40 minutes routing, they were not always routed in the most efficient order. We did some investigating and found that companies such as Coca-Cola and Whirlpool, along with fuel oil and delivery companies, were having great success with different versions of the mapping software. So we looked at the different mapping companies and partnered ourselves with the one that could best be applied to our needs, thus creating the Mapping Assistant. Real Green took the basic mapping program and tailored it to the lawn care industry. This new program, the Mapping Assistant, was tested and tweaked here at our company before we marketed it to others. The results were amazing. Our driver productivity jumped 25% per day. Also, it became much easier to train new personnel. Other companies have also said that using the Mapping Assistant allowed their techs to produce more per day, delaying the purchase of new trucks and hiring new drivers. Most users of the Mapping Assistant have declared that it paid for itself within the first year. Let's take a look at it. In setting things up, we will want to set certain parameters which we only need to do once. We would say how much time we expect to take at each property, just doing the paperwork, and how much time it takes to do 1,000 square feet. We can set daily limits for each truck, such as total square footage, total dollars of production, and hours worked in a day. We can also set preferences, such as avoidance of dirt roads or freeways after 3 p.m., and you can set expected truck speeds on different types of roads. For our example, we will just route one day's invoices for one driver. We select a group of customers and put them through the process. This will assign a geocode to each property, which refers to the latitude and longitude, according to their address and zip code. Now notice that almost all of them are fine, but there are a few that the program could not find. It may be because we have spelled the street name incorrectly, don't have the correct designation, such as drive, or we have the wrong zip code. Possibly one of these homes is a brand new street, so it is not located on the map. You will receive updated maps for your areas periodically. One by one, we can find the properties on the map and manually assign their geocodes. This manual location will only need to be done the first time. Next time, these people will route along with the others. We are now ready to print the route. We would print the map with the actual route highlighted and the stops numbered along the way. When we print the directions page, the stops are itemized along with detailed driving directions. This will usually be done for all trucks for a day or even several days in advance for tighter routes. This is also an excellent way to reroute customers into day codes before the beginning of the year, especially when your customer base has not grown evenly throughout your area. Of course, there is a lot more to the Mapping Assistant than what I've shown you today. If you are interested in this program, please call me or Joe Kucik to set you up on the Mapping Assistant.
I hope you've enjoyed our presentation on the Lawn and Pest Assistant. I'm sure after watching the presentation you have a high degree of confidence in our software, in our people, and in our company. These are the people who are going to help you implement the software and support you for many years to come. And I'm sure that you can tell why we have been picked by over 600 companies to run their businesses. Companies like the Scott's Lawn Service Company, Nutrilon of Canada, Natural Lawn of America have made us the software company that they wanted to go with after using other software companies. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us. If you wish to schedule your installation, give us a call. And we won't just send you another video, we'll send people out there to help you get this software up and running.
We are so confident that you will love this program and also offer a 6-month money-back guarantee.
We have a wonderful relationship with our happy customers, as you can tell from these letters.
I strongly feel the best investment I ever made was to have chosen your software and computer company to chart our path to success. We have gone from working out of my home to having 75 employees and 3 locations. Dave Perkins, Turf Tenders. No one has been able to put together the kind of total package like the Lawn and Pest Assistant. Tim Doppel, Atwood Lawn Care. In addition to competent, friendly service on the phone, your organization has shown its long-term commitment through the continuance of updates to the program with improvements and additional features. Dan J. Claver, West Michigan Tree Service, Incorporated. It has made the service department's daily tasks far easier. With the options available, you can be assured the routing is in order, there is no duplication of invoices, and invoices will not be printed in error. Jack and Barbie Wallach, Lawn Doctor. Real Green worked tirelessly with us to effect changes to the software to meet our needs. Lawn and Pest Assistant greatly improved our office and production efficiency, which has led to increased customer satisfaction. The marketing and reporting abilities of Lawn and Pest Assistant have enabled us to grow our business significantly. Jim Nix, Nutrilon Limited, Alberta, Canada.
I want to thank you for watching the presentation on the Lawn and Pest Assistant. We look very forward to hearing from you in the near future. Thank you.